Listen to me, child of God. I know you've been waiting. I know you've been praying. I know you've been wondering, when will my spouse come? When will God answer my heart's desire? When will the loneliness be filled, the longing be met, the prayers be answered? But let me tell you something. God is not late. God is not slow. He is an on-time God. And when he moves in power, he moves in purpose, and he moves in divine alignment. See, we live in a world that tells us to chase relationships, chase validation, chase love. But God doesn't operate on the world's timetable. God doesn't need you to chase. He needs you to trust. He needs you to stand firm in his promise. He needs you to believe that the same God who set the stars in the sky, the same God who breathed life into you, the same God who has carried you this far, he knows what you need. He knows the desires of your heart, and he is not about to leave you lacking. You've got to understand something. When God brings you your spouse, it won't be a struggle. It won't be confusion. It won't be heartbreak after heartbreak, leaving you drained and empty. No. The blessings of the Lord make rich and add no sorrow. That means the right person will come with peace. The right person will come with joy. The right person will come with alignment to your purpose, your calling, and your destiny. Stop comparing your timeline to the world's timeline. Stop looking at what everyone else has. Stop thinking, I should have been married by now. Listen, if you don't have it yet, it's because God is working something in you, preparing something for you, or protecting you from something that is not meant for you. Sometimes the delay is the blessing. Sometimes the wait is the preparation. Sometimes God is keeping you from settling for something beneath your destiny. Can I tell you something? The enemy wants you to settle. He wants you to get desperate. He wants you to lose faith. Because if he can get you to move ahead of God, he can get you to miss what God has for you. But the devil is a liar. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not forsaken. God sees you, and he has not forgotten the promises he made to you. So in this waiting season, don't waste it. Become the best version of yourself. Draw closer to God. Heal from past wounds. Step into your purpose. Because when you are walking in purpose, when you are aligned with God, when you are whole in him, that is when God will bring the right person into your life. Not when you're desperate, not when you're broken, not when you're trying to fill a void that only God can fill, but when you are ready, when you are positioned, when you are prepared. Trust his timing, trust his process. Trust that when God writes the love story, it will be worth every single second of the wait. Because when God brings your spouse, it won't just be good, it will be God. And when it's God, it will be blessed, it will be purposeful, and it will be a testimony of his faithfulness. God's timing is never off, never delayed, and never out of sync. It may feel like things are taking too long, like prayers are going unanswered, but God is not bound by human schedules. What we often perceive as a delay is actually divine preparation. God operates on an eternal timeline, and when he moves, he does so with perfect precision. He is working behind the scenes, orchestrating every detail, aligning circumstances, and preparing both you and your future spouse for a relationship that will be built on a firm foundation. When we rush ahead of God, we risk stepping outside of his will and settling for something less than his best. But when we trust his timing, we allow him to mold us, refine us, and position us in the right place at the right time. Every moment of waiting is an opportunity to grow, to deepen our faith, and to develop the character necessary to sustain a God-centered relationship. Patience is not about inactivity. It is about preparing in faith. When God finally reveals his plan, when he brings the right person into your life, you will see that every second of waiting was worth it. The world constantly tells us that we need to chase after love, to seek validation from relationships, and to do whatever it takes to find someone to complete us. Society glorifies the pursuit, making it seem as if our worth is tied to whether or not we are in a relationship. But God operates differently. He never intended for us to chase after people. He wants us to chase after him. When we trust in God instead of running after temporary fixes, we place ourselves in the right posture to receive his best. Chasing love on our own terms often leads to heartbreak, disappointment, and settling for less than what God has for us. But when we trust him, we release the pressure of trying to figure it all out ourselves. Trusting God means believing that he knows what's best, even when it doesn't make sense. It means resting in his promise, knowing that he is more than able to bring the right person into our lives at the right time. Instead of exhausting ourselves searching, we should focus on growing in faith, purpose, and preparation. When we stop chasing and start trusting, we allow God to do what only he can do. Bring us the right person in his perfect way. The right person, the one God has ordained for you, will not bring chaos, confusion, or uncertainty. Instead, they will come with peace, alignment, and confirmation. Too often, people enter relationships filled with turmoil, trying to force something that was never meant to be. But when God is the author of the relationship, there will be clarity, not doubt, peace, not anxiety, joy, not emotional exhaustion. God is not the author of confusion, and if you are constantly questioning, struggling, or feeling uneasy, it may be a sign that it is not his best for you. A relationship designed by God will complement your purpose, not distract from it. It will encourage your growth, not hinder it. The right person will support your calling, challenge you to be better, and stand with you in faith. They will not require you to compromise your values, your peace, or your relationship with God. Instead, they will enhance it. The love God has for you will never come through manipulation, fear, or insecurity. When he brings the right person into your life, you will recognize them not by how much you had to fight for them, but by how effortlessly they fit into God's plan for you. Waiting is never wasted when God is involved. It may feel like a delay, like your prayers are going unanswered, but God is not punishing you. He is preparing you. Every season of waiting is an opportunity for growth, healing, and transformation. God is working on things you cannot see, aligning circumstances and molding both you and your future spouse into the people you need to be for each other. If you were to step into a relationship prematurely, you might not be ready to sustain it. God is not just interested in giving you a spouse. He is interested in giving you a marriage that reflects his love and purpose. In the waiting, God refines your character. He removes insecurities, past hurts, and anything that could become a hindrance to the relationship he has planned for you. He teaches you how to love the way he loves, how to communicate with wisdom, and how to build a foundation that will last. Many people rush into relationships only to realize they were not ready. But when you trust God's timing, he will bring the right person at the right moment. The waiting is not about withholding blessings. It is about making sure you are fully prepared to receive them. The enemy wants nothing more than to see you settle for less than God's best. He knows that when you become desperate, you are more likely to make choices out of fear, loneliness, or impatience rather than faith. He will whisper lies, making you believe that time is running out, that you are being overlooked, or that you must take matters into your own hands. But when you settle, You trade God's divine plan for something that may look good on the surface, but lacks the foundation to last. The enemy wants you distracted, emotionally drained, and entangled in relationships that pull you away from God's purpose. But you must stand firm. You must remember that settling is not an option for a child of God. When you compromise on what God has promised, you risk walking outside of His perfect will. No relationship is worth losing your peace, your joy, or your purpose. God has something greater in store, but you have to trust that His choice is better than anything you could arrange for yourself. The enemy may try to deceive you, but when you remain rooted in faith, you will recognize that God's plan far exceeds any temporary satisfaction settling might bring. The waiting season is not just about finding the right person. It is about becoming the right person. Many people focus so much on receiving love that they neglect the work of developing themselves. But God wants to mold you, refine you, and prepare you for the relationship He has ordained for you. Instead of focusing on when your spouse will arrive, use this time to grow in wisdom, faith, and emotional maturity, healing from past wounds, strengthening your character, and deepening your relationship with God will make you ready to embrace the blessing when it comes. God does not want to give you just any relationship. He wants to give you a divine partnership that will serve His purpose. If you are not prepared, you may not even recognize or appreciate the person He sends. This season is about stepping fully into your identity in Christ, discovering your purpose, and cultivating the qualities that will sustain a strong and godly marriage. A spouse is not meant to complete you. When you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, aligned with God's plan, He will bring the right person into your life at the perfect time. When you understand that God's timing is perfect, that you don't have to chase after love, and that the right person will come with peace, you begin to release the weight of anxiety and impatience. You begin to trust that God is in control, orchestrating every detail with divine precision. You begin to see that the waiting is not a punishment, but a season of preparation designed to shape you into the person you need to be for the relationship He has planned for you. Instead of looking at what you don't have, you start seeing all that God is doing in you and around you. This journey is not just about waiting for a spouse. It is about becoming whole in God. Too many people rush into relationships looking for someone to fill a void that only God can fill. They believe marriage will bring them the joy, security, and purpose they are longing for, but no human being can do what only God was meant to do. When you make God your first love, when you allow Him to be your source of peace and fulfillment, you will walk into a relationship not as someone who is empty and searching, but as someone who is whole and ready to pour into another. God is more interested in your development than in rushing your timeline. If He hasn't brought your spouse yet, there is a reason. Maybe He is refining you. Maybe He is teaching you patience, faith, and trust. Maybe He is protecting you from something that could hurt you. Or maybe He is working on your future spouse, preparing them so that when the two of you meet, you will be ready for each other. Trusting in God's process means believing that He sees the full picture, even when you only see a fragment of it. The enemy will try to discourage you, making you feel as if God has forgotten you. He will attempt to plant seeds of doubt, convincing you to settle for less than what God has promised. He will try to make you impatient, leading you into relationships that take you away from your purpose instead of aligning with it. But the devil is a liar. God has not forgotten you. His promises are still true. His plans for you are still good. The enemy wants you to focus on what you don't have, but faith teaches you to focus on what is coming. Instead of wasting this season in frustration, use it for growth. Use it to strengthen your relationship with God, to deepen your understanding of love, to heal from past wounds, and to step into your purpose. This is not just a season of waiting, it is a season of preparation. The stronger you become in God, the clearer you will be in recognizing the right person when they come. You won't be led by emotions alone, but by wisdom. You won't be drawn into toxic cycles, but into a relationship that glorifies God. When God finally brings your spouse, you will look back and see that every moment of waiting had a purpose. You will understand why certain doors had to close, why certain relationships didn't work out, and why God took his time in preparing you for what he had in store. You will see that God's plan was always better than yours. And when you step into that God-ordained relationship, it won't just be good. It will be the fulfillment of his divine promise. So hold on, keep trusting, keep growing. Keep believing. The same God who placed the stars in the sky, who shaped the mountains and calmed the seas, is the same God who holds your love story in his hands. And when he moves, it will be more beautiful than anything you could have imagined.